Do you ever feel constantly overwhelmed, tired but wired, and just completely worn out? Well, you've definitely come to the right place. Today, we're going to dive into the deep biological impact that modern stress has on us, and we'll uncover a really powerful, body-focused way to get your calm back.
Okay, let's start with what is by far the most important thing to hear. If you're struggling, it is not a personal failing. It's not a weakness. This feeling of being on edge all the time, it's a biological reality. It's just a sign that your nervous system is completely overloaded.
So, how in the world did we get here? Well, the core of the problem is this huge mismatch between our ancient biology and the just relentless pace of the modern world. Think about it. Our bodies evolved to handle these short, intense bursts of stress, like running from a saber-toothed tiger, and then it was followed by long periods of rest and recovery. But today we face this constant barrage of tiny stressors, these micro-stressors, with pretty much zero downtime. This leads to something called cumulative allostatic load, which is basically just a fancy scientific term for the wear and tear on your body from being chronically stressed out. It just keeps piling on and on and on.
And this constant load, it isn't just a mental thing. It has a profound physical cost. So let's take a look at how this chronic stress creates some very real, very tangible changes in our bodies.
This slide right here highlights a super critical idea. Chronic stress literally creates dis-ease throughout our body. And the scale of this is just staggering. Research shows that somewhere between 75 and 90% of all doctor's office visits are for stress-related issues. So this isn't some small problem. It's a massive cascade effect that ripples through our entire system. All right, let's break this down, starting with the first three systems. So in the brain, chronic stress can actually shrink the hippocampus. That's our brain's memory center. Then it messes with the immune system, leading to this chronic low-grade inflammation. And for our heart, well, it means a heart rate and blood pressure that are always a little too high, which seriously increases long-term risks. And the impact just keeps going, right through the body's core. Stress disrupts our whole metabolic system. Those constant cortisol spikes can lead to insulin resistance and weight gain. It also really damages the gut lining and messes with the good bacteria in there. And finally, it just throws our entire hormonal system out of whack, suppressing really key reproductive and growth hormones. And to round it out, it causes chronic muscle tension, that pain in our necks or backs or jaws. On a microscopic level, it literally speeds up biological aging by shortening our telomeres. Those are the little protective caps on the ends of our DNA. And of course, it completely destroys deep restorative sleep, which is so critical for our bodies to repair themselves. Okay, so we know what stress does to us, but where is it all coming from? A lot of the time, the sources are invisible, woven right into the fabric of our daily lives. It's a fantastic question, right? If our bodies are literally designed for stress, why are we all so overwhelmed? Well, the answer really lies in the type of stress and the frequency of the stressors we face today.
Modern life is bombarding us from four key directions. These are what we call the causal domains of micro-stressors, and they're what keep our nervous systems constantly dysregulated, basically stuck in fight, flight, or freeze mode.
So let's start with what you see on the left here. In the technological and cognitive world, every single ping and notification keeps our adrenal system firing on all cylinders, while trying to multitask just exhausts our brain. Then, over on the right, you have all the emotional and social pressures, deadlines, conflicts, and even what's called compassion fatigue from worrying about everything going on in the world.
The third domain is biological and environmental. All the artificial light disrupts our natural sleep rhythms, while processed foods and just sitting around all day act as these constant low-level stressors. And finally, you have the socioeconomic and financial worries. Things like job security or medical costs create this constant danger signal in the body, telling our nervous system that we are never truly safe. Understanding the problem is the first step, for sure. But how do we actually heal? Well, we need a new approach, one that starts not with our thoughts, but with our bodies. This point from Dr. Gabor Mate is so incredibly important. You just can't think your way out of a physiological state. If your body is stuck in survival mode, trying to reason with it often isn't enough to create a true sense of safety.
And Dr. Peter Levine, who's a total pioneer in this work, he really reinforces this idea. Stress and trauma create this buildup of survival energy in the body. Think of an animal literally shaking after a close call with a predator. We need a way to physically release that stored tension.
And this brings us to the solution, a body-up approach.
So instead of trying to think our way out of stress from the top down, practices like somatics and trauma-informed yoga work directly with the body's physiology. The goal is to create a true, felt sense of safety from the ground up.
So, what does this actually look like in practice? What can you do? Let's explore the actual tools and frameworks you can use to build up your resilience and find that calm.
For long-term, lasting resilience, we really need to nurture our entire ecosystem. This means paying attention to these 7 areas: getting enough sleep, good nutrition, gentle movement, getting out in nature, cutting back on screen time, minimizing toxins, and building real-world rituals and connections with people. And for that in-the-moment relief, when you're feeling that stress rising, you can turn to these 5 core somatic practices. They are so simple, but they are incredibly powerful. This includes things like grounding through your senses, regulating your breath, using gentle movement to release tension, offering yourself a self-soothing touch like a hand on your heart, and using visualization to find an inner sense of calm.
Now, this is the crucial point. These aren't just little tricks to distract you. They are skills. You are actively communicating with your nervous system in a language it actually understands, the language of sensation. And you're telling it that the threat is over and it's finally safe to shift into a state of rest, digest, and heal.
This really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? Taking these small, proactive steps to care for our nervous system, it isn't a luxury. It's an absolute necessity for our long-term health and well-being.
Healing doesn't have to be another overwhelming item on your to-do list. You can start small, right now. First, just observe and identify one area that needs a little support. Then, maybe choose 1 or 2 simple somatic tools to try. And finally, pick one tiny micro-stressor to reduce, or one small joy to add to your day.
So I'll leave you with this question. Forget about everything else for just a moment. What is one small, gentle thing you can do for your nervous system right now? The path to reclaiming your calm, it really begins with that one single compassionate step.